Right, hopefully everybody can hear me. Welcome everybody, and thank you very much for joining. I'd like to start just very briefly by introducing our agency, who we are and why we are equipped to talk about thought leadership in the IT security marketplace. So as an agency, éclat Marketing has 15 years of experience, and we focus, security is one of our key competencies. So we have represented many companies and currently have 8 clients in this sector, and are regularly dealing with all of the press and analysts in this area. So that's the sales pitch over. Let's get into the meat of the subject. So what is thought leadership? I've used a definition by Forbes, which basically stipulates that a thought leader is an individual or firm that prospects, clients, referral sources, intermediaries, and even competitors recognize as one of the foremost authorities in selected areas of specialization, resulting in it being the go-to individual or organization for said expertise. I think that's a fairly comprehensive definition. However, for the purposes of this webinar, we're going to expand that so that we're really not only here talking about the luminaries and one-off individuals. We're looking at how to create an expert profile amongst the IT industry. So before we go any further, you might question why we should aspire to becoming a thought leader. So I wanted to share just some information from Ernst & Young. They actually looked into, or they estimate that from one of their thought leadership campaigns, they managed to generate $4.6 million worth of business leads from a single thought leadership campaign around, the subject matter was the University of the Future. But I think that is kind of illustrative of it. This does have tangible benefits. It also, of course, has intangible benefits, and we're going to talk about those in a little bit more detail later on and how we might quantify those. I wanted to question what exactly are we looking for when we're selecting a thought leader. So as marketing managers and directors within tech companies, what qualities, skills do we need in order for them to be convincing experts? Now, there isn't a one-size-fits-all recipe for success here, and some of these I think are prerequisites and others are nice to have. So it's great if your spokesperson has charisma and is able to engage and influence and convince others. It's vital that your spokesperson has a depth and breadth of knowledge and understanding of the IT sector, so that they can speak very confidently, not just about their own company or your own services and products, but who can provide expert insight and knowledge across a whole breadth of subject areas. They also need to be an original thinker. So being able to push the boundaries a little, I guess verging on the controversial, so not saying what everybody else is out there in the market is saying, but actually coming up with their own opinion and being willing to share those. And that also has, this is also vital for the organization, not to constrain the speakers too much. They need to be able to express their opinions and challenge the status quo. Being passionate about their subject matter is another advantage, and also being a good communicator and being able to explain, sometimes in relatively simple terms, concepts that may be relatively complex in nature, as well as being able to spot trends before others spot them. So this is what we mean when we're talking about a thought leadership. So moving on then to look at what are the tools of the trade. How do we achieve this elusive position of thought leadership? Well, I think one thing it's worth saying up front here is that it's about creating a dialogue. It's no longer about just broadcasting information. Pushing out press releases is not going to create anyone a thought leadership position. So it's very much about being involved in the industry dialogue and leading that conversation. So these are some of the tools that you can use to establish yourself as a thought leader. So writing a book, for example, becoming an author, is one very good way of achieving that and demonstrating a knowledge and understanding of a certain area of the market. So too are events. So webinars such as these, industry events. We obviously have info security around the corner, RSA, Black Hat, e-crime. There are a lot of events which enable you to present your ideas to your target audience, and establishing a reputation as a much sought after speaker is definitely on the road to establishing yourself as a thought leader. There are also more traditional techniques, so newsletters and blogs are also ways in which we can get our message out there in the marketplace. Social media, of course, plays a vital role in this and enables us not only to broadcast but to interact with our peers, our customers, our prospects, our competitors even. What's also important is having information to back up our viewpoint. So having great research, white papers, having case studies when we're talking about thought leadership as an organization, and of course byline articles. So these are all tools that we can utilize to position ourselves as experts. Moving on then to look at the top tips. What advice can we offer someone that's embarking on the road to establishing their senior executives as thought leaders, or indeed someone who's looking to move their spokespeople from just being a spokesperson to being what we consider a thought leader? First thing I would say is think about yourself as a product or a service. You have to market that product or service. What makes you different? Define your area of specialization. So be the foremost expert in two-factor authentication, ethical hacking, passwords, whatever. But don't try and cover the whole area. Choose your spokesperson wisely. So don't just be swayed by politics. It may not be the CEO or the CTO who's going to be the best spokesperson. Give those spokespeople the opportunity to share their views, and don't constrict and constrain them with too much red tape, should we say. Ensure those spokespeople know the local news agenda. So if your spokesperson is an American or from another country, make sure that they understand and follow the local news. Make sure they also understand that building a relationship with senior reporters and analysts and other influencers is an important criteria, and you should make it a priority and not constantly reschedule. Develop new perspectives goes without saying, and we've also talked about the importance of having great information to back up your viewpoint. But last and not least, don't let personality eclipse your company brand. So it's important that you have probably more than one spokesperson so that the brand doesn't become the individual. So moving on then to look at how can we measure the ROI of thought leadership. Like any other marketing discipline, we need to set clear goals. That may be in the form of how many interviews, how many opinion articles, how many speaking opportunities, but have clearly defined goals for your thought leaders and adhere to them. Invest in high quality material. You may have information that's bound up in your organization that you can abstract and use to illustrate trends. If you do, great. If you have to invest in surveys or research, make sure that it's genuinely interesting and not just selling your product. If you have good quality information, people will trade their contact details to receive that. So it's possible, of course, to get them to input their data into your website in order to obtain that information, which of course enables you to measure things such as downloads, which enables you to measure other social media metrics such as retweets, forum follows, etc. But make sure that you're tracking those lead conversions and seeing how they translate into real sales over time. Plus, of course, in order to measure the ROI, we then need to offset that against the cost of creating the content and, of course, the cost of using your PR agency to give you some sort of measure. But you shouldn't then forget the intangible benefits. So there are huge benefits to being the thought leader in a given sector of the market. And to illustrate this, I found this interesting piece of research by Nielsen, which published yesterday. Nielsen are a media measurement organization, and they looked at how influential different types of content was on the purchase process. This was actually on consumers, not a B2B audience, but I'm confident that you would see a similar kind of pattern within a B2B tech audience. So what they actually found was they were measuring branded content, so advertising and the like, user-generated content, so Amazon-type reviews, etc., and expert comments, so recommendation or comment by third-party influential journalists. And the conclusion was overwhelming that the expert content or expert opinion was by far and wide the most influential across the whole purchase process, from developing familiarity and affinity to actually making that purchase. So hopefully that's given you food for thought. I'd now like to hand the control back and invite Tom Brewster, the IT Security Journalist of the Year, 2012 and 2013, to share his views. Thanks, Tom.